Hello and welcome to Perspectives, where we take a deep dive into the issues of the day as usual, and where we take a look at people's opinion on such issues. I am Ruth Osime. Welcome back to Perspectives here on Arise News. Last week on Perspectives, we explored the challenges women face in politics. But recent events have exposed even deeper cracks in the Nigerian system, prompting us to revisit the issue again. After Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan sought international support at the Interparliamentary Union in Geneva, fresh allegations emerged that senators' signatures recorded for attendance were falsely presented as endorsements of her suspension. This revelation has intensified scrutiny, threatening Nigeria's global reputation as a functioning democracy. Adding fuel to the fire, former Senator Adetoun Ogunlewe claimed senators spend up to 50 billion on campaigns to invest in political returns and dismiss gender discrimination, suggesting women should simply navigate unwanted attention. In a system ruled by money, power, and misogyny, how can credible candidates, especially women, truly thrive? With protests erupting at the National Assembly, Akpoti's supporters demand Senate President Akpabio's resignation, while Akpabio's backers call for Akpoti to apologize. Security forces have stepped in, but tensions are rising, and the world is watching. We're heading for a short break, but stay with us because the conversation will begin shortly after we get to meet our distinguished guests. Lawyer and current affairs analyst Tietie, activist, entrepreneur and singer Adetoun Onajobi, and legislative governance expert Chibuzo Okereke. Perspectives return in just a moment. It's time to get the conversation moving, but not before introducing our distinguished guests, starting with Tietie, a lawyer, activist, and media analyst, leading advocate for human rights and social justice. In advices on national and international legal matters, appears on Arise News and has served on Nigeria's UN Human Rights Review Committee. We are also joined by Dr. Adetoun Onajobi, popularly known as Just Adetoun, a certified pediatric nutrition consultant, activist, and philanthropist. She's an indomitable force that champions conversations that tackle all forms of abuse. Our guest has successfully lobbied the government to implement transformative policies to alleviate social challenges. And last but definitely not the least is Chibuzo Okereke, a legislative governance expert involved in key national reforms like the Not Too Young to Run bill, electoral laws, and gender representation. He has supported legislation oversight and constituency work in the Nigerian National Assembly and convened Project Hope Alive for child's rights and girls' education. It's a great pleasure to have all three of you gracing Perspectives this morning. So let's start with you, Adetoun. You know, a lot of people have talked about this visit that Senator Natasha made to the IPU and whether is actually relevant or whether it will have any impact in her fight, the fight for her cause. So what's your take on her visit?
Good morning. Thank you, Auntie Ruth. Good
morning, my dear.
So Natasha's visit to UN is definitely necessary. It's necessary because we're in a society where sexual harassment, sexual assault has become a norm. And then we have a generation here that is not taking it or accepting it in that it is a norm. So if our own people, our leaders, our government see it as nothing, it is something to us. So it's better we speak out to the whole world if the whole world has a solution for us. Secondly, they see it as a disgrace. But looking at what we women have encountered over the years, the humiliation, the stigmatization, and all of that, we are no longer ashamed of our problems. Now we are worried about opening up on our problems, facing our problems, and dealing with our problems. And obviously, with the signs all over the world, it is obvious that the results of facing our challenges and our problems is definitely more and more profitable than the problems that we've had. Over the years, people have continuously said, women shouldn't do this, we should accept it, we should normalize it. No, So Natasha's presence at the UN is a good one. I give it to her.
So
that's
global attention.
Yeah. Not, you see, we think it's just attention. Sometimes we're not talking about attention. Sometimes we should look at it that, yes, our pains are more visible. So it's not the attention we're accepting. No, we don't. Sometimes we don't need some attention. But let the whole world see that we are not women how we are supposed to be women. We are not women where we are supposed to be women. And the places where we have struggled and strived to be present as women, we are not welcomed. Rather, we want to be chastised and humiliated and disgraced and, discouraged out of office. Okay. So you go to other countries, other African countries, you realize that there are more women in houses, there are physical women in actions and all of that. But what is the narrative in Nigeria? Don't go, don't do this, it's not your seat, it's not your place. Because Nigeria believes that we are only to be at home. We are only super and strong at home.
Misogyny is still very prominent.
So now that we have taken it to the UN, it is obvious that, Nigeria is still set back in the voice for women in positions.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Can we have Chibuzo in the house, please? Chibuzo, good morning.
Hello.
Good to see you. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, please.
So let me dive straight into my question. If senators' signatures were allegedly added to Natasha Akpoti-Uduagan's suspension report without their consent, following a rushed hearing that bypassed key members, and the same Senate still refuses to engage with the IPU's inquiry, doesn't this further damage public trust and legislative credibility?
Well, thank you very much for your question. I think, first of all, we have to unpack the issues and not speak to sentiment or emotions. We should speak to the facts. What are the facts of the matter under consideration? The fact of the matter is that there was a motion of breach of privilege of the Senate regarding the gross, disorderly, and unruly conduct of the distinguished Senator Natasha Akpoti, following her refusal to comply with the relevant rules of the Senate, Order 6, particularly 1 and 2, regarding the allocation of seats. And the rules of the Senate prescribes that every senator who subscribed as a member of the Senate in line with the oath of allegiance in Schedule 7 of the 1999 Constitution of the Republic of Nigeria shall observe those rules. So when on the 2nd of November 2023, the distinguished senator was sworn in, one of the key instruments handed into her was the Standing Orders of the Senate 2023 as amended. And then after receiving the handshake of the President of the Senate, he directed the Sergeant-at-Arms, whose responsibility through the Committee of the Senate Services is to operationalize that order of allocation of seats, including allocation of offices, and indeed other privileges. Those Sergeant-at-Arms, if you can put the video, walked her through to the seat allocated to her. So let us establish that she didn't come to the Senate with any office, with any seat, and the standing rules. It was privileges accorded to her as a member of the Senate of the Republic of Nigeria. And then when that issue occurred on the 25th of February, she refused to observe the rules of the Senate by speaking from her seat under the rules that constitute, and also raising your voice and speaking without recognition or not hearing the presiding officer in silence. These constitute disorderly misconduct within the Senate rules, which indeed everybody swore to. And this is the fact of the case. The next day, that matter was referred to the Ethics Committee of the Senate in line with Rule 95A4 that prescribed the powers and jurisdiction of the Ethics Committee of the Senate. So the two issues are not the same. I am a known he for she. I am somebody who advocates for women's rights and gender equity and has been doing that for years. So there is an attempt to fuse the issue of sexual allegation. And indeed, after 26, when the matter was referred, it was only on the 28th the issue of sexual harassment
Sorry,
was
can I
raised
just pause? Can I pause you there?
in this important station. But let me
Mr.
go
Okereke,
to the point
can I just
you made,
pause?
because
Can I pause?
this background
No,
was important.
I know. Can I just pause
No,
you
I want
there?
to speak to the issue of signature.
Exactly.
Signature
That was what I was
of,
just going to address.
the members you mentioned.
That's what
and
I was just going to
integrity.
address.
Now,
Yes, I need you to address
the Senate rule prescribed that the quorum rather for a committee sitting is 1/3. Indeed, under the Senate rule, members of the committee who do not subscribe to the report that has been presented has the responsibility to present what we call minority report, or even move a point of order to point out to the fact that there have been an erroneous inclusion of their signature in the report that may have been presented. The Senate is, and indeed the legislature, is ruled by rules of procedure. So if nobody at this point have been able to raise a point of order or present a minority report speaking to another opinion to the fact that this report does not reflect, and indeed he or she did not sign the report of that particular committee, the Senate will deal with that issue squarely. For now, it's still in the realms of people saying, oh, our signature was imported from attendance, or we were not in the committee sitting. So there is a procedure to deal with that squarely.
Thank you. Can I have Tietie, please? Thank you so much. Tietie, please, yes, I want to ask, what are the legal and constitutional implications of the Senate suspending Senator Agboti Ugduaka despite a court order halting the proceedings? And in such a case, what actions can the court take to enforce its rulings and uphold judicial authority? And does the Senate's defiance set a dangerous precedent for the separation of powers in Nigeria's democracy? It's a long question, yes.
Oh, well, you've combined a lot of issues there. First and foremost, we operate a separation of powers, and then the court has a very strong disregard and discountenances people or persons who don't recognize its authority. There are only a few categories of persons who have immunity in this country, and that's talking about the president and vice president, and then the persons who are governors or deputy governors. The Senate president does not hold any such immunity. If he defies the order of court, the proceedings of contempt proceedings can be initiated against him, and he can actually be imprisoned. Yeah, that must be made clear. So, and I think that we are coming to a point where some of these persons will be used as examples. I have oftentimes in this country watched how the EFCC chairman has been subjected to contempt proceedings, and then his arrest was ordered by the court, and that becomes a very strong embarrassment. So let it be settled that nobody is above the law. Even the president and the vice president who have immunity, such immunity is limited to when they are in office. Now, in that case, you ask that very all-important question. Now, a lot of these issues had remained internal issues of the Senate. But what the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria forgets is that it's dealing with an individual. And in Nigeria, individual rights that are tagged fundamental human rights are so fundamental that they're equated with the very existence of this country. When such a right is being threatened, the person in question will rise above such flexible rules made by the Senate, because sometimes you are not even certain about what the rules are, because we've had instances in this country where, in the Senate particularly, where there are things to be done, you find a new Senate rule be printed overnight. So don't even blame the woman if she's not conversant with all of the provisions of the Senate rules, because it does change anytime. You can imagine it, and it's not the kind of rules that, the kind of law that goes through legislation, but the rules that are proclaimed by the authority of the Senate president or the Senate in plenary. Now, the point is this: there is no constitutional provision for the suspension of the the representation of a people, either as into the parliament, in this case the National Assembly, either as a member of House of Assembly, House of Representatives, or the Senate. It is a strong, terrible, horrible aberration against the provision of Article 13 of the African Charter of Human and People's Rights, Ratification and Enforcement Act, laws of the Federation of Nigeria. Now, having that settled, when a senator perceives, because when you talk about issues of sexual harassment, it's about perception. It may not have been sexual harassment until the point the woman now understood. The senator, the highly respected, distinguished senator, Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, understood that she has actually been undergoing intense sexual harassment from the said presiding officer of the Senate. How do we mean by that? If the woman had struggled to have her motions listed for the purpose of moving them, if she has struggled with some other perceptions he has had, encounters he has had with the respected and highly regarded distinguished senator Godswill Akpabio, Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and then there is a culmination to the point that she was now being asked to change her seat. Now there's what we call a nexus. When you now apply and connect all of these incidences, they all come to the point that the woman is free to reach a reasonable conclusion, a reasonable perception that all of these persecutions that I'm being subjected to, that I'm suffering as a senator in the hands of the Senate, presiding officer of the Senate, it is because of this connection with the sexual, innuendos that he has referred to particularly to her. So she is perfectly on all fours, and in order to reach such a conclusion. And when such matters, I think that this is where the real problem is. The problem is that we have a system that is structured not to protect the weak, not to protect the oppressed, not to protect those who are at the receiving end of our socio-cultural and political and oppressive, social constructs in this country. And we all witness that. At the point the woman mentioned that I raised her voice, that ought not to call for discipline, that ought to have called for concern and inquiry.
Can I ask you something?
What we saw was that hasty move to silence this woman.
Please, let me ask you something, Frank. This issue of burden of proof, if the sexual harassment was done verbally and between both parties, and only both of them witnessed the exchange, and you don't have any burden of proof, does that actually make your case weaker? Because they keep on saying burden of proof, but most times
there is what we refer to.
Listen, most times.
No,
that's what I'm saying. Okay.
Until we get to the proper forum where these issues will be interrogated, we will begin to look at issues of circumstantial evidence, where you begin to analyze various disconnected issues, and then you come to a conclusion. The point is this: there are certain things that that happen only between two persons. However, there are corroborative instances and situations. Now, in this case, to the Nigerian public, is it a fact that the woman has tried a number of 6 times to have her motion listed to be moved, and she was denied? Is it on record that the woman had, felt uncomfortable and informed certain members of the Senate that she has noticing a certain discrimination, and then ultimately being asked to change her seat without any commensurate explanation? Now, at the point, the fact is that there is a problem with the complaint and remedial and grievance or remedial, system in the Senate, meaning that the woman didn't have the opportunity to ventilate properly to seek the address, to seek redress, I would say, of these issues. That's the reason why she raised her voice, and that's the reason why she called on the Nigerians right down the floor of the parliament. What was the commensurate and concomitant expectation or reaction of the Senate was to raise some form of protective mechanism for the woman. Okay. Let me tell you, you see, because of the delicate nature of the female gender, the idea is that you measure the advancement of a society by how much it is able to protect the weak. It's able to protect those who have been in the long-standing receiving end of oppressive culture and traditions that we have had in this country. Okay. What the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria did was to further oppress a woman, indicating the long-standing tradition of oppression of women in our culture, in Africa, and particularly in Nigeria. And that's the reason why it's important that the international community is looking at it very seriously.
Can I go back to...
Hello, please.
Can we go back to... Okay.
May I butt in, please?
Okay, Chibuzo.
I don't want us to confuse the public. How the National Assembly works, I know the poverty of intellectual knowledge about the system, and I won't blame anybody who may not get the knowledge about practice and procedure correctly. The truth is that under the Senate rules, the procedure for even making that rule involves the committee of the whole Senate. And any member of the Senate under Rule 102 or so is free to even bring proposition for amendment of certain rules of the Senate. And if people do not understand how matters are listed by rules and business of the committee in the other paper of the Senate, I don't think they should speak to it. Number one is that from my own perspective as an expert, distinguished Senator Natasha, from the records we have, which I think I have also shared from what our organization is doing, has over 18 plenary activities since November 2nd to March 6th. She has recorded more than 6 motions, about 3 bills that have been presented on her behalf. She has contributed to debate on motion. Even on the day she was sworn in, she contributed to debate about environmental issue in her constituency. She had more than over $1 billion allocation presided by this same Senate in the 2024 budget. In fact, her one-year celebration was regarded as one of the most impactful in her constituency, powered by this same Senate and allocations from federal government. So how do you speak to such issue and say such a person has not been allowed to express herself or represent her people? And indeed, Senator Natasha's contribution by our statistical data is even more than the 3 senators from Kaduna State. The highest performing female legislator today in the Senate is Senator Idayat from Lagos, followed by distinguished Senator Ireti Kingibe. So people should speak, and let me tell you, there are issues regarding understanding the rules clearly. As an expert, I could see that she needs help from that point. Issue of sexual harassment is completely different. Under this same Senate presided by distinguished Senator Godswill,
but it cannot be on the plate.
She
had
the opportunity to present petition
issue of sexual harassment cannot
twice.
Be on the plate.
She presented the first one on the 5th of March.
Mr. Chibuzo, issue of sexual harassment
falls short of roof.
I understand that. Issue of sexual harassment cannot be on the plate or sidelined. That is what
no. Nobody. I want us to stay to the. Okay. I want us to stay to the fact.
Let me get back to
you. Issue of sexual harassment. You have to know this point.
Let me get back to you.
She had the opportunity to present the petition for sexual harassment twice, and those petitions were not rejected. In fact, as I speak to you, it was referred to the Committee on Ethics on the 6th of March. So let us get it right and be calling for the committee to investigate that issue properly instead of mixing and fusing the 2 issues. They are not the same.
Thank you. Let me get back to Tom because Tom is here with us. Now, another question I want to ask you is that the Senate President has downplayed this issue because he is comparing it to Kamala accusing Biden of sexual harassment over a handshake. What do you think about that comparison? And then secondly, Renaud Mockery came out to say that Senator Natasha has falsely accused him of sexual harassment before in the past and that he will suggest that Senator Natasha takes a lie detector test. What do you think of these 2 statements so far?
So first of all, we need to identify something. Whatever we're discussing today is not about Natasha Akpoti's person.
It's bigger than her.
It's bigger than her. 2 things involved here. Natasha Akpoti's gender as a woman and as a mother. Natasha Akpoti representing we women in the Senate. So she's our eyes, she's our strength, she's our commitment, she's our effort, she's our trial. So you cannot compare both. And this is the reason why I said both cannot be compared. Obviously, Natasha and the Senate President has a family relationship aside from how they both present themselves in the Senate. The case of Biden, we have no idea. But whether or not he's trying to compare it, the issue is...
What's the comparison? I mean,
there shouldn't even be any form of comparison.
Holding hands and sexual harassment are two different things.
They are two different things. And this is something that even happened in your own premises, not in the Senate. So that's to tell the fact that both of you still have a long-standing relationship, because Natasha said it happened in your premises. Now, if the Senate president wants to compare, did Biden ever tell the woman that this is not a club?
Exactly.
Did Biden ever say that? Did anybody ever hear? And this is just one out of the things that Senator Akpabio has said. Senator Akpabio has said nastier things. Vaseline and issue. We don't want to burst his bubbles here. Let's just take it slowly. If they try to calm down...
Yeah, but he did apologize for those comments.
Yeah, he shouldn't even. Then they should send him to go and train himself well, send him for more orientation, and let elders call him to order on how to present yourself as the Senate president. There are some things that you shouldn't say as the Senate president. Whether you said it recklessly or mistakenly, you are the Senate president, so you must have gone through some form of orientation and training, and you're sitting in the position of a leader controlling numbers of people. So you shouldn't have even said that. That's enough. That's enough in the face of citizens of the Federal Republic tells us that you don't even deserve to be a Senate president.
Okay, what about the Renomokore angle, where he says that he was wrongly accused? He even said he was compensated for the wrong accusation.
Yes,
and
Renomokore came out with his full chest to say that. And definitely nobody has come to counter Ren that he was telling a lie. I would also support that. If a lie detector test can help us here.
For both of them.
For both of them, yes. Natasha. Yeah, it would help us here, because some sets of people are trying to protect the Senate president because he's their leader. So their loyalty, they are playing a loyalty card towards their leader and not towards their person.
Yeah.
Now, for Senator Natasha, we are also protecting the fact that she's gender. But if a person needs to go through a test to say, okay, she's lying, and this is why it is very important. In as much as we are women, we also do not condone anybody using the feminine weapon to destroy, to blackmail anyone. We have a will, and that will is a legacy that our children, our young girls must come up with, that you are a woman not because of your physical features or your sexual features. You're a woman because you're strong. You're a woman because you are a home builder. You're a woman because you're a nation builder. So see yourself beyond what the physical values are. Our young girls have become instruments and objects today. And this is definitely a trail if we allow this to slide. Let Senator Natasha go for the test. If she's found guilty, yes, we support the government punishing her. We women will come for her because she's misrepresenting us. And we don't want anybody. We're all beautiful. Whether you're light, whether you're dark, whether you have big this and that, that's not the issue. The issue is we're women and we must be respected. So I support the motion that they should both go for the lie detector test. The Senate president is not an innocent man. We've heard the stories everywhere. We know we've heard about his history and all of that. And definitely, this is not the first time the Senate president is also being accused. So if they are saying that Natasha once told a lie, definitely some other people to have come out to accuse the Senate president. And also the Senate president has not also displayed himself as a man of full integrity. You telling a woman in front of the whole world that this is not a club. Do you both go to the club together? So how do you know her character in the club and in the Senate? So they should go for the lie detector test on behalf of all women who came out for the protest and those who couldn't come out, and our young girls and mothers who don't have a voice. And with the voice of the people, we agree that Natasha should go for the lie detector test.
Okay. Let me come to Mr. Chibuzo, because this saga seems like it's a never-ending problem. So what's the road to a truce? How can we create a truce? How can we meet in the middle ground where everybody feels justified and feels that this is a fair play, fair conclusion? What's the road to it?
For me?
No, not you. Now that the case is in the court, I'm asking you, Mr. Chibuzo, Mr. Okereke, what's the road to a truce?
Yeah.
Are you talking to me?
No, I'm asking Mr. Okereke.
So thank you. Yeah, I heard you.
Wait a minute.
I heard.
She's asking me.
No, he's asking me.
No, I'm asking Mr.
No, she has already judged.
I'm asking Mr. Chibuzo. Don't worry, Frank, I'll come to you. I'm asking Mr. Chibuzo. What's the road to a truth?
So he's going to pay me back
How
for
do
the
we
time
how do we get over this?
Let me say this. First of all, just to respond to my sister, and I agree with her.
Don't forget my question.
That any woman that is found to weaponize her gender should be punished, and nobody should also sweep sexual harassment tendencies under the carpet. It should be properly investigated. Number one, the day that distinguished Senator Fabio made commentary about this place is not a club, for those who understood parliamentary practice and procedure, on that day, the distinguished Senator Natasha should have earned 14 days suspension, because under the rules, you cannot, during second reading of a bill, and the presiding officer is about to take a ruling, and you started screaming, Mr. President, we don't want to kill the bill. Mr. President, we don't want to, without even recognition, which is a problem of ignorance of the rules of the Senate. So on that day, once the Senate President names you, a motion is taken, you go on 14 days suspension. But that did not happen because of the issue of high turnover, understanding, and giving people time to learn the procedure.
Can we get, what about the second question?
Now, Senator Natasha herself believes in the Senate. That was why she brought the petition for sexual harassment on the 5th of March. Unfortunately, in the Senate procedure, you cannot be the petitioner and the sponsor under Rule 44. And then the next day, she made correction and brought back the petition on the 6th and also represented correctly this time around with
but how can we move forward? Because you're going around the same situation.
Now,
the road to a truth is what I asked you.
The wife of the Senate President has gone to court. As it is today, if the Ethics Committee is sitting, they have to consider the legal implication of venturing into a matter that is prejudicial. And if they have legal opinion that since Senator Natasha is just the sponsor and not the petitioner, and that they can actually take the petitioner who is her constituent, they can proceed with the matter. That of court proceedings can also go on. So as it is today, the matter is in court from what we know, so we should allow the court to also go through this whole process. And that was why some of us who really are he for she's felt so bad that she went to the IPU and told them that she will serve her 6 months suspension, and the day she comes back, she will represent the petition. Meanwhile, the petition has been represented on the 6th of March and duly referred to the Ethics Committee. She laid it herself, and the video is there for the whole world to see.
But it's her decision to decide to represent it if she wants to.
With this.
Is it not her choice to decide to? Is it not her choice to decide to represent the petition on her resumption? It's her choice to do that.
I'm saying that she has already represented it on the 6th of March, and it was duly referred.
Even when she
resumes her comes back, look, if distinguished Senator Natasha makes issue of sexual harassment as her legislative agenda, some of us will support her, but we don't want it fused with the issue of disorder, gross
so in other words, if she does come back and
unruly behavior in the Senate.
So if she does come back and represents the petition, it will be better addressed.
She can come back and represent even multiple other petitions.
No, this particular one, I'm saying, this particular one.
Of her plenary.
Okay. If she represents this particular one.
Under the procedure of the Senate, there will be no need to represent it until it's discharged. There's something we call referral. When you present a petition and the petition goes to the Ethics Committee, a referral is made to that committee with a reference number, and until the petition is discharged. However, you can bring additional petition if you discover that there is something probably you missed out.
So you don't take up too much of our time.
Under the rules, you can come and present more, and it will still be referred.
Okay, Tom,
and we must thank the Senate
Chibuzo,
despite the challenges
for
for giving her room to present. present the petition twice and referred it twice without silencing her.
So
that
please know
people
your question.
must see.
Mr. Chibuzo, I have two questions for you. Number one, the wife of the Senate President,
yes,
she's
please.
gone to court on behalf of who? On behalf of all we women or on behalf of a matrimonial home? Sorry, could you please help me answer that question?
It's on behalf of her husband, I think.
On behalf of her husband, is she...
Okay, do you want to ask the two, or I should take...
No, one
or I
first.
should take one after the other?
She's
she's
gone
on
to
behalf
court.
of her husband.
Under the law, is it right for her to go to court?
Mr. Chibuzo, wait, let her finish now. Let her land.
So we're trying to learn and educate, enlighten ourselves here, so that maybe when other women going through challenges, they can help us sue their husbands to court. Do you understand? Because we have a lot of women who cover up for their husbands. So now my question is, the wife of the Senate President going to court, is she going to court on behalf of we women? Or she's going to court on behalf of her husband for her marriage?
She's going on behalf of her husband. She made that clear.
On what grounds? How many billion? So Senator Akpabio cannot sue Natasha. There is something more to these people's relationship. If Senator Akpabio cannot himself go to court, and the wife is on behalf of him going to court, that means this matter is definitely a family problem.
Wait, Tom. Let's wait. Mr. Chibuzo, you've had quite a bit to say.
If I may respond,
can you make it brief so that I can get Frank to
number one
speak?
is...
Make your answers brief
if I may respond, she said she was asking me
yes,
two
go ahead,
questions.
Go ahead.
But, all right. So
no, we know number one. We know the answer to number one.
First of all, I'm not a member of Senator Akpabio's family, and I don't also subscribe to the fact that my sister said, "Oh, I know Akpabio very well. We have been reading many things about him." That's not
all
how
that
to
is speculation. It depends.
We have to be careful with it. The wife, I understand from what we read, went to court that the statement, the alleged sexual harassment statement that by distinguished Senator Natasha amounts to defamation of both herself and her family because they are in marriage, and two shall become one. And I think it's within her fundamental right to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Right? So,
thank
and
you,
the court
Chibuzo.
is going to make a pronouncement on that particular proceeding.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Let me get to Frank.
The second question, I didn't get it because
can you sort of rush it up because we need to talk to Frank.
The second question.
Let me
let the lawyer help us answer.
Calm down. Let him talk. Go ahead, Chris.
No, he wants me to answer the second question.
No.
We don't need the second question. It's okay. I'm okay with the first one.
So, Frank, let's get to you. Let's get to you, Frank.
I beg us a lot in this country to stop this joke. You know, if we've got laws, then let's abide by the provisions of those laws, right? And so, if the Senate rules has been spoken about, has been talked about, is that, you know, is subjected to a sort of review today by people, by a number of persons that I know, including myself, probably would discard a whole lot of all of these provisions because they run very contrary to the fundamental law of this country. Let me tell you, Section 1 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, it provides that every law, every rule, regulation that is inconsistent with the provision of the Constitution shall, to the extent of that inconsistency, be void. So we see many of these rules that are directly, contradictory and, against the provisions of Chapter 4 of the Constitution. And they are allowed there. Let me tell you, if anybody's rights and obligations are to be determined, they are only determined under the provisions of Section 6 of the Constitution that gives such powers to the judicial arm of government. Wherever any executive body or non-judicial body is acting in quasi-judicial capacity, like when you have, commissions of inquiry or you have panels of inquiry, just like the way the Ethics Committee is operating, they must at every time strive to operate according to the provisions of Section 36, subsection 1, 2, and 3. Now, this Senate Committee, the Senate Committee, Ethics Committee, is not different from a disciplinary committee set up by a university to deal with a case of sexual harassment. So you must understand that it falls below the standard of, it doesn't have the powers to determine such, wide rights and obligations as they affect a Nigerian human being, Nigerian citizen, a senator, and her constituents. Now, such issues are determined by the provisions of Section 6 by the courts. And we have express rules as to how sexual harassment issues should be dealt with. The Senate does not even have such jurisdiction, such powers to deal with matters. These are matters that are to be handled by the National Industrial Court. We see a lot of jocular and a lot of unseriousness on the part of people who are running that institution. And that's why there's this confusion. And if all we have advised them is get proper advice. And when you say you've got experts who can tell you plainly what the law says, that look, you cannot even deal with the issue of sexual harassment. If you bring Section 36, subsection 1, you cannot be a judge in your own matter. Some woman who is a senator, distinguished senator, comes around to say, listen to me, all of these oppressions I've been enduring, I haven't said anything, but today I'm about to speak up. And then the next thing is that, oh, you hasten the oppression, you hasten her suspension, and then you silence her, you, the accuser, preside over it, and you even announce the judgment. What kind of joke is that? And then you are not challenging her. Bring the accusation to us. We that suspended you, bring it to us so that we determine what kind of blatant, brazen, and flagrant disregard for the rights of fair hearing in this country. And it's happening right there in the center of governance in the Senate, and you want us to take it. Senate rules. Which rules? Rules that were made by persons who apparently don't understand the provisions of the law to protect the citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So that's the problem. I like to weigh in on the issue when you say, what is the way forward? The way forward is simply that, first, commend that female senator. If she has been able to bottle all those perceptions all this while until she was pushed to the wall, I, for one, would never, ever make a comment on whatever has happened, even in my capacity as an analyst on Arise News, until she was suspended. At that point, it became a total aberration. It became a national and international disgrace. What should happen now is that the matters be submitted to the appropriate forum, and it's the National Industrial Court. The woman should not bother herself to submit to what kind of, it's ludicrous, with all respect, for you to submit yourself to the people who have accused you, who have judged you, and found you guilty. She herself should have a better advice. I think that we should run this country according to the books so that we can have some measure of certainty and not all this joke and unseriousness that we experience every now and then.
Okay. Thank you so much, Frank. Let me get back to Mr. Chibuzo. Please make your answer brief, because I need to include tone in this conversation again. So what do you want to make a response to Frank's comments?
My brother Frank is getting too emotional, and I
but it is an emotional. It's an emotional. No. It's a very emotional situation.
There is an attempt. You want me to throw away my emotions? There is an attempt.
No. Doctor,
that is my problem. And this, I'm coming. There's an attempt. There's an attempt.
Come. This is this misogynistic attitude that women frown upon. The fact that it's not taken seriously, the severity of this accusation holds a lot of water. So don't say people are getting emotional. It's a very emotional. But it is a very emotional situation.
The emotion here. There is even an attempt to include deception in the manifestation of this emotion.
Where is that? Where is the attempt to include deception?
That people are insisting. I'm coming, excuse me, please.
Yes,
this is very important.
Yes, it is.
I am the one that spent years understanding legislative practice and procedure, and we can change our rules, change our laws if it doesn't work. The truth is that until we unpack the issues, separate the fact that a senator is accusing the president of the Senate for sexually harassing her from the fact that a senator conducted herself in a disorderly manner against the rules of the Senate. Once you separate the two issues, you now start dealing with them without
you guys stop wagging your fingers. No.
This is what is critical. This is the problem that we must fix, because on one occasion there is already an issue regarding gross disorderly behavior. When the Senate was inaugurated, I give you this instance and I'll rest my case. Senator Oshimole went to Channels TV and told them that when he came into the Senate, he discovered that the senators have vandalized the offices. He was the one fixing things there. The matter was raised as a breach of privilege on the floor and almost committed to the committee of the whole to suspend him before he rose up and apologized, and that matter was rested.
Are you comparing both?
Senator Ningi went
Are you
on
comparing both situations?
That is what
One is much
I want
more,
you to
is
note
much deeper.
that there are a different,
And more pervasive in
there
society.
is a different case of sexual harassment. There is a different case of, you cannot sit here and become a court of law and tell us that when a senator conducted a disorderly behavior on the 25th of February and then came on the 28th and raised entirely a new issue, which in herself she believed that the Senate should look into, and she brought petition twice. And Frank is saying that Senate does not have power to do so. That is incorrect, because the woman said that action amount to abuse of office of the Senate president, and she wants the ethics committee to look at it, because under the constitution, the code of conduct forbids Senate president and indeed anybody to sexually harass somebody. And she said the ethics committee should look at it. When the ethics committee looks at it, it's only a parliamentary inquiry and does not amount to finality. She can take the report there, she can still be in court, she can go to any code of conduct tribunal or bureau, she can go to the court. So parliamentary inquiries are not finality. They don't vitiate the rule of law or provision of the constitution. But that is the first point of call, because that is the rule to the institution you submitted. And indeed, nobody forced her to bring any petition. She chose to bring it there. She could have also gone to the Code of Conduct Bureau and accused the President of the Senate and remember, she even did it on her rise, not on any petition. It was only when people started saying you need to take it as a petition that she brought it as a petition on the 5th of March, which offended Rule 44, and she represented it on the 6th of March. For Christ's sake, if somebody is accusing you of sexual harassment and she brought petition and you still receive that petition as a Senate, referred it to the appropriate committee. If the Senate denied receiving her petition, that will be a breach of her own privileges under the Legislative House's Powers and Privileges Act, and indeed Rule 10 of the Senate Standing Rules. People should understand this clearly. I will not sit here and agree with anybody that we should constitute this studio into a court of law and assume.
But can I ask you one question? Sorry. Mr. Chibuzo, I have to intervene here. Mr. Chibuzo, please. No. Can I just intervene here? No, wait. You have right of reply, but let me throw this question at Mr. Chibuzo.
Yes.
How do you discuss sexual harassment without first discussing the matter of disorderly conduct in the Senate? How do you discuss sexual harassment without first discussing the matter of disorderly conduct in the Senate?
All right. My response is very simple. Before the
incident
of 25th
please, can I throw this in as well? Have you know that... No, wait. Mr. Chibuzo, please just hold on. Let me land, please. Another question I want to throw at you. Oh. No, I've asked you about it. Sorry, please keep that first question in mind. Then we've also witnessed worse misconduct in the Senate before. For instance, First Lady Remi Tinubu, her conduct was worse. Dino Melaye, his conduct was worse. Dino Melaye said to Remi Tinubu, I can make you pregnant, which made her lunge at him. They weren't suspended. So why is Natasha's case any different? Without us not believing that the harshness of her punishment is a reflection of the accusation she has made against the Senate president. Because you didn't suspend Remi Tinubu for 6 months. You didn't suspend Dino Melaye for 6 months. So how do you address that? The disorderly misconduct without addressing sexual harassment, both of them hand in hand. Do you understand?
Thank you very much, my sister. Yes, I understand. Well, first of all, the Dino Melaye case happened in the 8th.
It doesn't matter. Rules are rules. They should apply to everybody.
It's like, I'm coming now. It's like a barracks. People come, people go. And every assembly is constituted by people elected by Nigerians. That was why you didn't see Senator Natasha in the 8th Assembly.
I know that, but the Senate rules should apply, no matter, they should all apply generally.
The Senate rule, this is what I want people to understand. And I wish people would spend more time dealing with policy and understanding government, over some other things we pay attention to. The Senate rules can only be triggered by a motion, either procedural motion or substantive motion. It is not a church or religious house where people, sometimes they fight in the Senate or in the House of Reps. There was a time even...
we're rounding up. We're rounding up. So quickly, so your last comments.
Chibuzo, sorry, sir. Sorry. Chibuzo, sorry, sir. I don't want
emotions. We're rounding up.
Just like you said, we don't want emotions to play here.
Okay, wait, can we just calm down?
Question I have not answered.
Chibuzo, we're going.
Relax.
No, Auntie Ruth, don't tell me to relax. Chibuzo, I want you to understand something. Let me tell you something. No matter how big or ambiguous your laws are, the issue, the position we women are, and the challenges we're facing as women and our children are, no law supersedes the emotions right now. Please, I'm respecting that red cap on your head. If not, my response to you will not like it. Listen, the society where we are today, understand that touching a girl, a woman, is more important than any law. Even if the president makes any law now, the fact that we have been silenced, the fact that we've been dehumanized, the fact that our girls are being molested every day, and our women cannot get to power as queens or but as lionesses would not make us respect any law. Natasha was nice.
Okay, thank you.
Natasha was really nice. I just wish it was me in that house. Then they would know that that law is not important because it is the same people who made that law. And definitely,
calm down.
Okay, come on, your red cap. Make I give you proper answer. Because
come on. So it's enough. Okay, Frank, give us your last take on this, and then we'll get back to you and you'll finalize.
You have not.
Because you're taking too much time. We don't have the luxury of time. Can you just shorten it? Can you fasten it, please?
Into my discussion.
Okay, sorry about that. Can you fasten your response?
I have stood for the right of women. I have continued to stand for it. And even till tomorrow, I will continue to stand for rights of women and support them, and also work against and speak against anybody who sexually harasses women. But I want us to separate the two issues. And I also want you to know that if nobody brings a petition, raises a motion or anything, many times things happen in the floor of the assembly.
Thank you so much.
Can
Frank Tietie give us our last words, please?
We'll end this.
Thank you. Let's Frank. Frank, give us the last word. We are ending up now.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Make sure that no vulnerable
from my strong perception and analysis.
Yes.
From my strong perception analysis.
Please, can you keep it quick?
I'm not even allowed.
Please keep it.
My opinion.
Please, Frank, can you round up, please? Because we don't have time. Time is against us. Frank, round up.
Just let me wait. See.
Mr. Chibuzo, please, can you allow the second guest to talk?
Please allow me.
Please, this is not fair. Allow him talk.
Excuse me. Look, these are my thoughts in quick succession. When I talk fast, it's because I know the importance of time.
Can you make it brief, please?
Not because I can talk calmly. Now, the point is this. Look at it this way. Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan should actually be commended. I tell you why, and this is the reason. She should be commended because she's been punished for misreaction. That is, she bottled up a lot of perceived sexual harassment, and then at the time where she could not take it anymore, and then there was a volcanic eruption on the floor of the Senate. She's now been punished for that.
Okay,
whereas
you so much.
The proper thing would have been
Frank, you know we're pressed for time.
No. She should have. The Senate ought to have protected her.
Mr. Chibuzo, please. Thank you so much.
Look, it's about protecting the individual.
Thank you so
now,
much. Thank you.
She had gone to court.
Thank you for this. Oh my God, that was intense. Anyway, the unfolding events surrounding Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan's suspension, the Senate's internal controversies, and troubling political revelations exposed deep cracks in Nigeria's democracy. With global attention intensifying, one thing is clear: the fight for justice, representation, and integrity in leadership is far from over. And as I keep saying, remember that life is a learning curve. That's all we have time for today. You've been watching Perspectives here on Arise News with me, Ruth Osime. By the special grace of God, we shall be back here same time next week. Until then, stay healthy, motivated, and happy. Goodbye.